Yo guys, my name is Nibiri, and in this video I'll show you how I do the sound design of my leads with the melody that I've just made. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So while this stuff is just going on in the background, I'll be setting up the silent ones and everything so I can start doing with sound design. I just wanted to explain how I kind of work with the sound design. I tend to use around 5 layers for the leads and 1 for the sub. And I like to think less is more. So try to really make as much out of each layer and really make each layer as powerful and complementing the other layers that you've already made. Like I said, I'll be making 5 layers, which of them 2 of them will be chords and 3 of them will be top leads, or well, 1 top lead and 2 supporting leads. And with that top lead, I really mean a mono lead that's moving, it has distortion and it really screams out, and it's also like the character of the entire lead that's going to be supporting it. So we have 1 mono lead, and after that I have 2 supporting leads that are mainly hypersols. I tend to just use hypersols, and the more detuned feeling the top lead is, the more detuned I go with the back supporting layers of these of this top lead. I have a lower hypersol to support my top lead and a higher hypersol to support my top lead, as you'll see. And really try to divide your lead in these 5 layers, like top lead, 2 back leads, and then 2 types of chords. One of the chords will be really hypersol and really just for the characteristic of the chords that you're going to put behind it, so they're going to be a little bit louder, and the other layer will be a little bit softer, but they'll have a little bit more it will give a little bit more thickness to the chords, and the thickness of the chords will give that by using a little bit less voices and less detune, because when you're lower in the frequency spectrum you might get a little bit more phase issues if you use too much detune. So that's why we try to keep the detune lower, and as you'll see in a bit, I'll also use 1 lower note under the chords, so it just adds a little bit more thickness to your lead. So right now, as I'm checking the final stuff for the leads, I'll be setting up for my reverb. And for this melody, I used I think 3 or 4 reverbs. 2 will be on leads themselves for the top leads and 1 for the harmony. And then I have 2 reverbs on ascend. The first one I'm gonna do right now, as you'll see in the background, and this first reverb is just going to be there for the sidechain. So whenever the notes are playing, you really don't hear much of it, but the spaces in between notes, it really just kicks up and gives a little bit of drive to the entire melody. And behind that, in the ascend reverbs, I'm just gonna use a big reverb again to really give a more wet feeling to the entire melody, but not too wet. So that's why we use two reverbs to split them, with one sidechaining and one with just straightforward reverb. And now that you're satisfied with the melody that or the sound design that you've got, like I'll make some little bit of back sounds. So I'll be making a pad, and I think I'll be using some chords or choirs later on as well, just to really give it a more epic feeling. And also something that I see most producers forgetting about, and I also tend to forget about it, is that the background stuff behind leads is really important. Try to, when you have a good, powerful sounding melody, good lead design, really try to put more behind the lead, because the lead is nice, but when you have a good atmosphere for the lead to sit in, it just really can finish your entire track, or well, finish the part when your melody is playing in the track. And also that's the same for when the kick is playing. I won't be adding a kick right now, but when the kick is playing, really try to put stuff behind it so that you can get a more just a more full feeling, and it will really finish your track more. So right now, when I've got everything playing and I kind of like the entire vibe of the melody and the stuff behind it. Sometimes, and this was one of the cases, I feel like it's not really entirely done yet, so I just try throwing everything down, all the faders, and really try to rebalance everything, just to really get the most out of each layer that I had, and really think about each layer, if it was in the right spot or not. You can use a save file before this if you feel uncomfortable with just throwing everything down and losing everything. But I think that if you redo it, and also without the reverb, it just gives you a second opinion to really make the most out of your leads.